Hello Sumit, you're welcome back to my channel. So in this video we'll be learning how to make this beautiful bobo dress. It's very simple and in 12 minutes we'll be done with the cutting and the sewing. So if this is like what you want to know how to make, you can stick around. Let's get started. The first thing I'm doing, I'm using a paper for it. You know, it's two fabric, so there is no way I'm going to cut directly on the fabric, so I'm using a paper. I have my two fabrics. They are 2 yards. They were almost not enough because they were not enough, so I will advise you use like three yards each, okay, because of the length of the dress. So the first thing I marked on my paper is my shoulder measurement, which is 7.5. Then from the shoulder measurement I now marked the sleeve length, so I went down with about 12 inches because you know I'm going to fold the sleeve by the time I'm done. So from there now I came down by 1.5 for shoulder slope. So now the neck width I'm marking is 4 inches. It is from this 4 inches that I'm marking now. I will now connect to the 1.5 I just mark on the sleeve length for shoulder slope. So now you can see what I'm doing. I went ahead to connect the shoulder slope. Then the next thing we are going to determine the width of the sleeve. How big do you want the sleeve to be? So I went ahead and I marked 12 inches downwards. But if you ask me, I would say you should mark like 10 or 11 inches so that it is not too big. Although it depends on how you want it, okay? So now I have to check the measurement to make sure that they are equal, and I marked on this other side too. So after getting that, I'm now going to square the sleeve up. Okay, this is me still checking it. I will go ahead and square it up. Remember that the sleeve length from the very edge of the paper is 12 inches downwards, so you can see me rolling the line. That's the sleeve length, the width of the sleeve. So on the part where the sleeve is now, I'm going to roll a straight line. So that will be my chest line measurement, where my bust measurement will be resting on. So I will divide my bust by 4. Then I'll mark a quarter of my bust measurement. Then I added extra 4 inches to it. You can see that the dress is very big on my body. If you don't want it that big, you can use 2 inches, okay? So Anna came down by 8 inches to get my hip height measurement. I rolled a straight line because I'm going to impute my hip measurement also, okay? So now I'll divide my hip by 4. 10.5. Then after marking 10.5, I went ahead to add extra 4 inch for the fullness of the dress. So now I'm going to get the full length of the dress. Now I'm measuring 55 inches as the full length of the dress, but here now I now measure like 60 inches because most times after cutting these dresses you see that they are not up to the measurement you marked on your paper. So I like adding extra. So I went ahead to mark the lower part of the dress. So whatsoever measurement we have on the hip line, I'm going to extend it downwards. So at the midpoint now I marked there, I went to the lower part and I mark it. So the same measurement you have on the hip line is what you are measuring straight down to the lower part of the dress. So this is me connecting the lines from the chest line to the hip line. Then from the hip line I'm connecting it down. You can see me using curve ruler on the hip line area. Then I'm using my straight ruler to take it all the way down. So after doing this, the next thing I will go ahead and do now is to get the neckline measurement. Okay, so don't forget that the neck depth, the neck width is 4 inches that we mark. This paper we're using it to cut both the front and the back together. Okay, so we'll get the neckline for the front and the back. So for the front neckline I came down by 6 inches because it's carrying a V neckline. The back neckline was 1.5 of an inch. So I'm going to connect these lines together. The back neckline, I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect the 1.5. The front neckline, I'll use my straight ruler to make a V shape for the front neckline. So after that, I went ahead to connect the armhole area. I literally later went ahead to reconnect it because I felt like it was too curvy at this point. Okay, I felt like it was too curvy, so I did it again, and I'm going to show us that part. So after that, now the next thing I want to do is to go ahead and cut it off, because like this now, we've drafted both the front and back of this bubu dress. So I will go ahead and cut it off, but remember that the cutting now, we are only cutting the back neckline, we did not cut the front neckline. So you can see the armhole curve I told you, I reconnected it because I felt the other one was too deep. Okay, so now after that, now we are going to determine where the curve will start from. So I will measure 15 inches downwards from the neckline. So from that 15 inches now, I'm going to create a curve, which is the part where the upper fabric will come in. So I created a curve downwards. I didn't measure it downwards. It's just from the neckline, 15 inches from the neckline, to know how deep or how low I wanted it. So I now checked with the length of my fabric to know. It would have been curvier than that if my fabric was longer, which is why I say you need 3 yards each. So I made the curve according to where the length of the fabric will stop. And after curving it this way, I went ahead to cut it out. And after cutting it out, the next thing I'm going to do now is to bring my fabric. My fabric is already folded into 4. Then I'll place my pattern on it and go ahead and cut it out. If you're still watching at this point, don't forget to subscribe if you're new to my channel. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much. I really appreciate your support and I don't take it for granted. And don't forget to leave me a comment, okay? Your honest review about this video. It will really help me a lot. So after cutting, you know that we are using the same paper to cut both front and back, right? So the next thing I went to do now is I removed the paper. I now cut the front neckline. Then I now use it to cut. After cutting on the paper, I now use it to cut on the fabric. Okay, so the front neckline is ready. The front and back neckline is ready. We are going to cut the back. I went ahead to fold the second fabric into 2 and I placed this one on it. Now this is another reason why I say you need like 3 yards of fabric, because I had to join on the lower parts because it wasn't long enough. And you know bubu is not fine when it's not long. So if you have 3 yards of fabric now, your pattern should be, especially if you're very tall. I'm measuring just 55 and the 2 yards are not enough, right? So you need a longer fabric for it. So after cutting it out this way, the next thing we want to do now is to join both the upper part and the lower part together. So when I spread it, I'm just going to separate it, then show you how to do it with one of it to save our time. So I'm going to spread it open this way and I will bring one of the upper parts. Okay, so when you place it, you can see that the design has already come out, but how are you going to place it or sew it together correctly without making any mistake of one side being bigger than the other side? So one thing you have to do, fold the fabric back into 2, go ahead and notch the middle. So you will do this thing for both the front and back. Notch the middle of the upper part and the lower part. So it is this point that you are notching now that you will bring together, pin it round, then you go to your machine as so. So after notching it, this is what we have. Now what you want to do now is to place it, pick the both notched parts like so. So now when you pick it together like this, you should make sure that the right side of the fabric is facing the right side, like the right side of the upper part is facing the right side of the lower part, just like that. Then you go to your machine and you sew it all through on both sides. So I will do that on both the front and back. This is what we have. You can see how neatly done it is. I've already gone ahead to sew it. So now we have to cut the facing. Okay, you don't have to wait to this point before you cut your facing. You can cut it with the half. Okay, so now to cut the facing, I have my fabric already folded into 2 pieces that I already cut out from. So I'm going to place it beneath it like so. Then I'll go ahead and trace the neckline out. After tracing the neckline out, I will now go ahead and trace the size of the facing I want. Okay, so the same thing we are doing for the front like this, we are going to repeat it for the back pattern. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing like this. We are going to repeat this same thing for the back pattern. Same way we cut this facing as same thing. So if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Your subscription means a lot to me. Please subscribe. So after that, you're going to place it on it like that, right side facing right side, before you now sew it. So now let's cut the back facing together. You're going to fold it into two also. Then I'm going to pick a pieces of fabric that is already folded into two. Okay, so when I pick the pieces of fabric, now I'm going to place it beneath it. You can see me folding the fabric. I'll place it beneath it. Then I'm going to go ahead and trace the edges, the neckline. After tracing the neckline, I'm going to cut it to my preferred size. Okay, so after cutting it all around, I'm going to place it to the main dress, right side facing right side. I will now go ahead to the sewing machine and join it to the dress. So I will do that off camera and I'll come back. After joining it, this is what we have. The facing has been attached and this is what we have. So the next thing I will do now is I will go, you can see how the facing is. I've not even ironed it, but it's relaxing because the fabric is 100% cotton fabric. So you place the front pattern on it, right side facing right side. Okay, you place them together like so. Go ahead and join the shoulders together first. So I'll go straight to the machine and join the shoulders together and come back. So after joining the shoulder together, this is what we have. The next thing you have to do after joining the shoulder is to fold the edge of the sleeve. So you're going to fold it into two like so, run a straight stitch down, do the same thing for the other side. I will do that and come back. After that, you go ahead and join the both sides together. I'll do that off camera. So I didn't want to add pocket, but I later added pocket. If you don't know how to attach a pocket to a dress, I have a detailed beginner video of it. Check the description box for the link. I went ahead and folded the edge also, and that brings us to the end of the video.